Joining us now is Eugene Scott, Axios senior political reporter. Just doing a lot of great work talking to people on the ground in states like North Carolina and self-described Republicans, Democrats, independent. Eugene, welcome. There's a lot to talk about. When you went on these listening tours, what did you learn? What were some of the overarching themes?
Yes, we talked to quite a few swing voters here at Axios, voters who backed Trump in 2016 before going to Biden in 2020. And there are a few things that we've heard. Overwhelmingly, most people, regardless of the state, Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina, are not interested in backing Trump or swinging back to Trump, should we say. But they are interested in a third party candidate. And there's some eyeing of some of the other GOP candidates, mostly Nikki Haley and Chris Christie, as people still look for an alternative to Biden and Trump, who are both largely unpopular.
It is interesting because that kind of just lines up anecdotally with what I'm sure a lot of us here, just friends, family, whatever, millions of people in 2020 maybe just saying, I can't vote for Trump, so they went for Biden. But then a lot of my friends who did that are now privately coming up to me, Eugene, and saying, I voted for Biden in 2020. I can't do it again for whatever reason. He's too old. It's too much this, too much that. They're just not going to vote unless there's somebody else. Is there, though, an actual pathway for a third party candidate, or does the electoral college system kind of just almost block that out?
It doesn't seem like it yet. And to be fair, these individuals, no one communicated that they will definitely vote third party, but they certainly want to hear an alternative and different messaging. And it's hard for that messaging to break through. We obviously have candidates like Robert Kennedy and Jill Stein and Cornel West, but neither of these individuals are getting attention, in part because, as you mentioned, we live in a two-party country for the most part. And the power and the control that those parties have can make it very difficult for a third-party candidate to get any significant traction.
Even candidates inside their own party, Eugene, you've got a Dean Phillips, and people could say, well, he would never win. Fine, let the voter decide. He's been blocked off the ballot by the Democratic National Party in Florida as well. I think you make a very important and elegant statement, which is that this is not, the political parties are effectively billion-dollar corporations, I got to imagine, that are kind of maneuvering things here. The economy is doing pretty well. Inflation is, it's still high, but the rate of inflation is coming down. The housing market's up, record high stocks. So if you're an asset owner, you've done very well. If you're a renter, it's tougher. What do you think is people's biggest beef with President Biden? Why is he polling so terribly?
Well, most people do mention age. That's a real concern for the average swing voter. But quite frankly, it really depends on who you're talking to. Demographically, you've got a lot of young voters who are really upset with the administration being so supportive of Israel when it comes to the war in Gaza. You've got some swing voters who were Republican or conservative-leaning independents who just feel like the Biden administration is actually too progressive on a number of issues. And the economy, regardless of what the numbers say, isn't as healthy as in terms of how people feel as the administration communicates. And I think in one particular area, it's groceries. People haven't seen prices go down to the degree that they would hope. And the home ownership crisis is a very real problem. I mean, we've seen reports showing that the average age of first-time homeowners continues to increase, and that's been really disappointing for a lot of individuals who, or not, look to Washington to make home ownership easier.